Sometimes we recognize a story by the way a room behaves before anyone raises their voice. A waiting room can tell you who believes they belong and who expects to be tolerated. This one did not try to hide it. Rhea Lawson's experience matters because nothing was taken from her in a rush. It was taken slowly, politely, and with confidence by people who mistook access for ownership. What follows is the way she remembers it. I noticed the clock first, not the time how loudly it ticked. The kind of ticking that fills gaps people leave open when they think no one important is listening. Vera was already talking when I sat down. She always talked early, like she needed to establish momentum. Miles leaned back with his ankle on his knee, phone glowing in his hand. Sloane stood by the window, adjusting the sleeve of her coat like the glass might reflect something she needed to fix. "We'll need liquidity once probate clears," Vera said, calm and practical. "I don't want delays." Miles smiled without looking up. "Once the accounts unlock, I can clean things up." Sloane laughed, short and brittle. "The Cape place should go first. It's charming, but it's not useful." No one lowered their voice. No one checked if I was listening. I sat with my hands folded, coat still on, like I might leave at any moment. Vera glanced at me and paused just long enough to make a point. "Rhea, you're welcome to stay. Of course, this won't take long." "I'm fine," I said. Miles tilted his phone toward Sloane. "See, she gets it." The door opened and Elliot Crane stepped out. He didn't scan the room. He didn't smile. He called our names like he was checking boxes. Inside, the table was bare. No folders, no water pitchers, just chairs placed evenly, like no one was meant to claim the head. "Before we begin," Crane said, settling into his seat, "I want to be clear about the purpose of this meeting." Vera leaned forward. "We're ready." "This is not a will reading," he said. "This is a trust activation and an accounting review." The room shifted. Miles lowered his phone. Sloane stopped touching her sleeve. I felt it then, the small, steady thing in my chest that had been there for weeks, waiting to be named. From where we sat, it was already obvious who thought the future belonged to them, and who was about to learn the difference. We noticed how silence changed hands in that moment. It didn't disappear. It just moved. Crane slid a sealed envelope across the table toward me. "We'll start with the trust." I took a breath I didn't rush. "Okay. If you're still here with us, stay a little longer. This one doesn't unfold all at once." Crane opened a thin folder and rested his hand on it. "Not in a hurry." Vera watched him the way people watch a waiter when they've already decided what they're ordering. She crossed her legs. Smooth and practiced. "Thomas always liked things clean," she said. "He hated confusion." Crane nodded once. He was precise. Miles leaned forward. "So this is mostly formalities." Sloane took the chair closest to the window. She angled it just enough to keep the light on her face. Vera smiled at me. Not warm. Contained. "Your father worried about you, Rhea. About how much you kept to yourself. He wanted to make sure you were comfortable." I said. She waved that away. "Of course, I mean long term." Crane lifted a page. "The Lawson Family Trust was created 24 years ago." Vera didn't react. She already knew the name. Or thought she did. It remained revocable during Thomas's lifetime. Crane continued. "He retained control. Decisions required his signature." Miles shifted. "And now. Crane said, "The trust is active." The word landed heavier than I expected. Active. Not transferred. Not paid out. Active. Vera leaned back, fingers steepled. "That aligns with the will." Crane looked at her. "The will and the trust are separate instruments." Silence slid in, the kind that presses on your ears. Sloane broke it. "So what does that mean in practice?" "It means control," Crane said, "and review." Vera's smile thinned. "I handled the household finances for years." "You handled access," Crane said. Not authority. She laughed once. Quick. I was his wife. You were his spouse. Crane replied. Those are not the same thing in this context. My hands were still folded in my lap. I noticed that, how steady they were. Crane turned a page. The trust names a successor beneficiary. Vera's gaze flicked to me and stayed there longer this time. Rhea doesn't want that responsibility. I met her eyes. I didn't say that. Miles let out a breath. This feels sudden. It isn't. Crane said. It's timed. He slid another document forward. Not to Vera. To me. Before we proceed, he added, we'll review the accounting. Vera's chair made a small sound as she shifted her weight. We noticed how quickly confidence tries to reorganize itself when it realizes it's been standing on the wrong paperwork. Crane didn't look up. This part takes a little while. I nodded. I'm ready. Crane adjusted the stack of papers in front of him, lining the edges like it mattered that they were straight. Vera watched his hands instead of his face. That was new. The trust holds the majority of the family assets, he said. Voice even, investment accounts, the primary residence, the Cape property, the Napa parcel. Miles sat up. All of it, most of it, Crane replied. Some items remain outside by design. Sloane frowned. Design by who? Thomas. I felt that name move through the room. Not heavy, present. Crane turned to me. As successor beneficiary, you assume control effective today? Vera shook her head once. Slow. That doesn't make sense. Control transfers after distributions. That's a common misunderstanding, Crane said. Distribution and control are separate stages. Miles rubbed his jaw. So nothing's being paid out. Not today. Sloane exhaled. Sharp. Then what is happening? Crane tapped the top page. Oversight. Vera leaned forward. I've managed the household for years. Every bill, every expense. Crane didn't argue, which is why the accounting matters. The word sat there. Accounting, not accusation, not threat. Something colder. He slid a page across the table toward her. Not fast, not slow, just enough that she had to reach for it. These are expense summaries from the family account, he said. Categorized by month. Vera glanced down. Her mouth tightened. Miles craned his neck. That's just normal spending. Crane nodded. Some of it is. Sloane crossed her arms. You're implying something. I'm documenting patterns. Crane said. For example, personal debt payments coded as household maintenance. Miles stiffened. Those weren't personal. Crane turned another page. They were. The room felt smaller. I noticed the hum from the vent, the faint click from the clock behind us. Vera's voice dropped. This is inappropriate. It's required, Crane said. The trust mandates a forensic review upon activation. She laughed, thin and breathy. Thomas trusted me. He trusted the structure, Crane said. That's why he built it. I swallowed, not because I was nervous, because it was strange hearing someone say out loud what I'd learned quietly. Crane looked at me. Do you want to pause? I shook my head. No. Miles stood halfway, then sat back down. This feels like a setup. Crane didn't look at him. It's a safeguard. Vera turned to me. You asked for this. I met her eyes. No. He did. Silence settled again. Heavier now. Different. Crane closed the folder. We'll continue. He didn't rush. He didn't soften it. From the other side of the table, it was clear who thought control came from proximity, and who understood it came from preparation. Crane opened the next file. Let's talk about access. Crane slid the next document into place. Thicker. The paper made a soft sound as it settled, like it didn't want attention. This section is about access, he said. Not money. Vera's shoulders eased a fraction. Good. Because that's been exaggerated. Crane didn't react. Access to advisors, physicians, accounts. Miles leaned back again, trying to look bored. My mom handled logistics. That's all. Crane glanced at him, then back to the page. In the final year of Thomas's life, 3 long-standing advisors were removed from regular contact. Vera waved a hand. He was tired of being bothered. 2 of them reached out. Crane said. They didn't receive responses. Sloane tilted her head. People drift. Sometimes, Crane said. Sometimes doors are closed. I felt my jaw tighten. Not anger. Recognition, Crane continued. There were also changes requested to medical authorizations. Vera's voice sharpened. He wanted privacy. He wanted clarity. Crane replied, The timing matters. Miles shifted in his seat. You're making it sound sinister. I'm describing sequence. Crane said. He turned a page toward me this time. You were not informed about several of these changes. I looked down. My name appeared more than once. Dates written out in full. A neat line where a signature should have been. I wasn't asked. I said. Vera leaned forward. We didn't want to worry you. Crane lifted his eyes. That decision limited her access. Sloane crossed her legs the other way. She lives her own life. I lived close enough. I said. The words surprised me by how calm they sounded. Crane nodded. Isolation doesn't require distance. The air felt tight. I noticed Vera's fingers tapping the edge of the table, stopping whenever she caught herself. This is unfair, she said. Thomas trusted me to manage things. He trusted process. Crane said. That's different. Miles laughed under his breath. So what now? Crane didn't miss it. Now we outline boundaries. He read them slowly. No further changes to access without trustee approval. No unilateral contact restrictions. No financial decisions without review. Vera stared at the list. You're treating me like a risk. Crane closed the folder. I'm treating the trust like a responsibility. I took a breath. It came out steadier than I expected. This is why he built it. Vera turned to me. You think you know him better than I did. I think I knew when to step back. I said, and when not to. There was a pause. Not dramatic, just space. Crane gathered the papers again. Precise. We'll move to expenditures next. From where I sat, the room hadn't changed. Same table. Same chairs. But the doors I hadn't known were closing had finally made a sound. Crane didn't announce the shift. He just changed the folder. The pages were heavier this time. Not thicker exactly. Just denser. Miles noticed it too. His knee started bouncing, then stopped when he realized it was visible. We're moving into expenditures, Crane said. Household account activity over the last 3 years. Vera's chin lifted. Everything was for the family. Crane nodded once. That's what we're here to verify. He slid a summary across the table. Not toward Vera. Toward the center, where all of us could see it. Monthly withdrawals increased steadily. He said, especially in the final 18 months. Miles leaned forward. That's when things got complicated. Crane turned a page. That's when the coding changed. Sloane's voice came out light, almost playful. Coding expense categories, Crane said. What something is labeled as, he read without emphasis. Household maintenance, travel logistics, personal support. Miles let out a short laugh. That's vague enough to mean anything. It's vague enough to hide specifics, Crane said. Vera's hand tightened around her pen. Are you accusing me of something? I'm identifying discrepancies, Crane replied. For example, he tapped a line item, payment toward a private debt listed as emergency plumbing. Miles froze. Crane didn't look up. The creditor confirms it was a gaming balance. The room went quiet. Even the vent seemed to pause. That's not fair, Miles said. That was temporary. Crane flipped another page. It happened 12 times. Sloane shook her head. You're cherry-picking. Crane's tone didn't change. Another example, jewelry purchases categorized as household security. Sloane's mouth opened, then closed. Her fingers went to her necklace without thinking. Vera stood halfway, then sat back down. Thomas approved those expenses. Approval requires awareness, Crane said. And capacity. The word landed hard. Capacity. Vera's voice sharpened. You're implying he didn't know what he was signing. I'm noting timing, Crane said. Signatures made during periods of medical vulnerability. I felt it then. Not triumph. Something heavier. Like air leaving a room I hadn't realized was sealed. Crane turned to me. You were not copied on any of these approvals. I wasn't. I said. Vera snapped her gaze to me. You stayed away. I was asked to. I replied. Repeatedly. Crane continued. This pattern meets the definition of financial exploitation under state guidelines. Miles pushed his chair back an inch. So what? Are we being charged? Crane shook his head. This is not a criminal proceeding. Sloane exhaled, shaky. Then what is it? It's a correction, Crane said, effective immediately. He listed them out, slow and clear. Spending privileges suspended. Expense account frozen. All future disbursements require trustee review. Vera's voice dropped. You're stripping me of control. I'm returning it, Crane said, to where it belongs. I hadn't planned to speak, but the words came anyway. He told me this might happen. Vera stared at me. You let this go on. I let the structure do its job, I said, the way he built it. Silence settled again. Not stunned this time. Calculating. Crane closed the folder. We'll take a short break. No one moved. The accounting had done what arguments never could. It hadn't raised its voice. It had simply finished speaking. The break lasted less than 5 minutes. No one left the room. Crane stepped to the side table, poured himself water, then sat back down like the pause had been for paperwork. Not people. We'll document next steps, he said. These are procedural. Vera straightened. Meaning boundaries, Crane said, not punishment. Miles rubbed his palms together. Feels like punishment. Crane slid a single-page document toward the center. Temporary occupancy terms for the primary residence. Vera's eyes moved fast. You're making us leave. Not immediately, Crane said. 45 days. Use restricted to normal living expenses. No asset liquidation. No renovations. Sloane scoffed. That's ridiculous. It's protective, Crane said. For everyone. Miles leaned forward. And after that, Crane met his gaze. After that, possession is reviewed. Vera's voice tightened. I'm his widow. You're a resident, Crane said. For now. The words landed flat. No edge. That was worse. Crane turned to another page. All discretionary accounts are frozen. Household expenses will be handled through a monitored channel. Sloane's face drained. I have commitments. Crane nodded. You'll need to adjust. Miles laughed once, sharp and humorless. This is control. Crane didn't deny it. It's governance. I watched Vera closely. She wasn't angry. Not yet. She was recalculating. Crane continued. A cease and desist notice has been issued. Her head snapped up. For what? For contact. Crane said, direct or indirect. No pressure. No intermediaries. She turned to me. You did this. I agreed to it. I said, there's a difference. Her voice dropped. You're cutting us out. I'm creating space. I said, the kind he asked for. Crane placed the final document on top. Any attempt to interfere with trust operations will be addressed through the court. Miles leaned back hard enough that his chair creaked. So we're just supposed to sit and wait? Yes, Crane said. That's exactly it. Sloane's eyes filled, then hardened. You're enjoying this. I shook my head. I'm steady. There's a difference. Silence again. Not the heavy kind. The empty one that comes after options narrow. Crane gathered the papers. We'll reconvene in 2 weeks to review compliance. Vera stood slowly. Thomas would hate this. I stood too. He designed it. She searched my face, looking for something she could use. She didn't find it. As we moved toward the door, I noticed how light my hands felt. Not relieved, just unburdened. Control hadn't been taken from them. It had simply stopped pretending to be theirs. Crane waited until the door closed behind Vera and her kids before he spoke again. The room felt larger without them, or maybe quieter in a way that made space noticeable. "There's one more item," he said. He reached into his briefcase and took out an envelope. Plain, cream paper. My name written in my father's handwriting, careful and slightly slanted. He didn't slide it across the table this time. He stood and handed it to me directly. He asked that you read it after the accounting. Crane said, "Not before." My fingers hesitated, just for a second. Then I took it. Crane looked away, giving me privacy without leaving. That felt intentional. I opened the envelope. The paper inside was folded once. No extras, no copies. I cleared my throat. He wanted this read out loud. Crane nodded. "Take your time." I unfolded the letter. Rhea. I read, and stopped. Hearing his voice in my head caught me off guard. Not dramatic, just familiar. I know this has been hard to watch. Harder than I ever said out loud. I swallowed and kept going. "If you're reading this, it means you trusted me when I asked you to step back. I'm sorry for the silence. It wasn't absence. It was protection." My voice wavered. I steadied it. "Vera didn't take anything from you that I hadn't already secured. I needed to see how she behaved when she thought no one was watching. You didn't owe me patience, but you gave it anyway." I felt my eyes sting. I blinked. Slow. I was wrong to wait as long as I did. That's on me. But I wasn't wrong about you. You know when to listen. You know when to hold your ground. I paused. My hands were shaking now. I didn't hide it. If this meeting happened the way I planned, then the structure worked. That matters more to me than being liked. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. I didn't leave you answers. I left you room. Use it well. And don't confuse quiet with weakness. You never did. The last line was shorter. "I'm proud of you. Always." The room stayed still. Crane didn't move. He didn't rush me. I folded the letter carefully and pressed it flat with my palm. Crane spoke softly. "Do you need a moment?" I shook my head. "No, I needed that." He gathered his files. "We'll finalize documentation later today." I nodded. "Thank you." He met my eyes. "Your father was very clear." I stood, the letter still in my hand. My chest felt tight, but not heavy. Different. As I walked toward the door, the envelope brushed against my fingers. Solid. Real. For the first time since he died, I felt like I wasn't carrying something alone. I didn't go back to the house right away. I sat in my car for a few minutes with the engine off. The letter folded on the passenger seat like it needed its own space. My phone buzzed once. A message from an unknown number. I let it sit there until the screen went dark again. By the time I did drive, it was late enough that the office lights along the road had started turning off in sections, floor by floor. I noticed things like that now. Small endings. When I finally pulled into the driveway, the house looked the same. Lights on in the kitchen. Someone moving behind the curtains. Normal. Almost comforting. That was the problem. Inside. Vera was standing at the counter, phone pressed to her ear. She stopped talking when she saw me. "I'll call you back," she said, and ended the call without waiting for a response. We stood there for a moment. Not close. Not far. "So," she said, "this is how it's going to be." I set my keys down. For now. She folded her arms. "You could end this." I looked at her. Really looked. the tightness around her mouth, the way she was already adjusting. I said, but I'm not going to. Her eyes narrowed. You want me out. I want space. I said, there's a difference. She laughed quietly. You always talk like that, like everything's neutral. I shook my head. It's not neutral. It's deliberate. She took a step closer. You're enjoying having leverage? I'm enjoying not needing it. I said. That landed harder than anything else I could have said. She looked away first. I picked up the letter and slid it into my bag. I'm converting the Cape House. Her head snapped up. You're selling it. No, I said. I'm repurposing it. For what? A short-term place for people who need to leave quietly. I said. People who can't do it all at once. She stared at me. You're using his money to make a point. I'm using his structure. I said. The way he intended. Vera's voice dropped. You think this makes you better? I didn't answer right away. Then, I think it makes me done. She turned and walked out of the room without another word. I stayed where I was, listening to the house settle around me. No victory, no rush. Just a choice I didn't have to explain to anyone else. That felt like enough. The house was quiet the next morning in a way it hadn't been for a long time. Not empty, just settled. I made coffee and stood by the sink, watching steam rise, then disappear. My phone stayed face down on the counter. I didn't feel the need to check it. Later, I went into my father's study. Vera had changed it years ago. Lighter furniture, brighter colors. I hadn't touched it since. I moved one chair back to where it used to sit. That was all. The room felt different immediately. I sat there for a while, the letter open on my lap, not rereading it, just letting it exist. The words didn't feel heavy anymore. They felt placed, like he'd set them down exactly where I would find them. In the afternoon, Crane called to confirm paperwork. His voice was the same as always, calm, precise. We'll proceed at your pace, he said. That's good, I told him. I'm not in a rush. After the call, I stepped outside. The garden looked uneven, overgrown in places. I made a note to call the gardener my father liked, the one Vera had let go. That felt like something worth undoing. By evening, I realized I hadn't thought about winning all day, or losing, or proving anything. I'd thought about space, about what stayed quiet when no one was trying to manage it. I understood something then, standing there with my hands in my pockets, the house behind me and the day cooling off. Thomas Lawson hadn't left me money. He'd left me permission to slow down, to stop explaining, to choose what didn't need defending. For the first time in a long while, Rhea Lawson didn't feel like she was waiting for the next moment to arrive. She was already in it. If this story stayed with you longer than you expected, you know why. Some endings don't close doors. They leave them open just enough to breathe.